It's a beautiful day for a YouTube show, a beautiful day for a viewer. Could you be mine? Would you be mine? Don't you know that I've always wanted a viewer just like you? So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you can watch all the fresh content that comes out day by day and share with your friends so to them I can say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my viewer? Hey viewer, how you doing today? Hope you're having a good afternoon and or evening and or late night and or morning depending on your time space coordinates upon when you're viewing this here video. Welcome to Fandom Collective 1138. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars. Specifically, an idea I've had for a long time that might be the radical nuclear option to save the franchise, which is on shaky knees right now. Now, understandably, the controversy erupting around Star Wars at the moment, with all of this focus on internet trolls and harassment and a complete lack of understanding of the nature of some of people's complaints about these movies, has led to a boycott, which may or may not in and of itself have affected the numbers for Solo, but it certainly helped deflate the enthusiasm, and general audiences felt no reason. There's no buzz for this movie leading up to it. I mean, from what I observed just in day-to-day life around coworkers and stuff, where I work around a lot of younger, early 20-something millennials, and none of them I never heard to say a word about Solo. Even now, like, no one's talking about it. It's mainly just all of us internet freaks and actual Star Wars fans. So anyway, whether you agree with what's happening or not, it looks like Kathleen Kennedy might be out, and a lot of the things that she has announced might be up in the air. I figured that J.J. Abrams held Episode 9's still going to go through. It's supposed to start production in just another month or so. But the Rian Johnson trilogy, who knows? The trilogy from the Game of Thrones guys, who knows? That Boba Fett and Obi-Wan movie they just announced, who knows? Alex Becker on his channel had made a point of that, like, this might have hurt Star Wars fundamentally. Like, the momentum is going to be really hard to ever get back up for people to be excited. Just like I said, for the general public, not the hardcore Star Wars fans, just the people who like to go see movies because they like to go see popular things and be able to talk about what's popular with their friends. So my idea to propose here, and maybe have us talk about, is what if after Episode 9 is in the can, they take maybe a break for a year or two and do a full cold reboot of the Star Wars saga. Listening to me, obviously they're going to recast, and Luke Skywalker and Leia and Han, and everybody won't be the same people they were before. However, if we start over from scratch, from Episode 1 on, there's a lot of things that can be cleaned up. The tonality between the two original two trilogies can be fixed. Foreshadowing can be properly worked in. Stuff like in the classic trilogy, you don't have to have the double Death Star thing anymore. The Death Star can be left as the big finale for the third movie and not being crammed into the first part of that trilogy, just because we don't know if we're going to be able to make them anymore. And so this is what I want to do for my big ending. And then, oh crap, we got to do another Death Star. Even like better set things up so if there's going to be a third trilogy after that, it could be salvaged from what Disney's done. I mean, like, just like with the prequels, we can't just throw it all away if we're going to reboot it, but can rearrange it, chop it up, just make it better. From the get-go, have it all planned out, film the movies in like mini trilogy batches, like film episodes 1 through 3 all together and then release them a year apart, then take a couple years off, release episodes 3 through 6, just package it like that. Audiences are not used to getting Star Wars all the time, I think, is also part of the problem. I didn't go see Solo, not because I have any issue with social justice in Star Wars or any of that kind of stuff. It just hasn't been enough time for me to build up, and you kind of like, oh man, I got to get out there and sit in the theater and spend all that money. Like, I can wait. Something similar happened when the Matrix movies were out in theaters. I enjoyed Matrix Revolutions. It took time for that movie's stink to settle in, but at first I was like, "Oh, that was great." But Matrix, the third one, was the third one Revolutions? No, Reloaded. Second one was Reloaded. Third one was Revolutions. Whichever the third one was, I waited till DVD. It came out in theaters, and I was just like, I just really the only time a movie has come out with a real short gap in between them that's not a Marvel movie that I've ever like, oh, I got to get out there and see it was Kill Bill Volume 2, and that's about it. Most of the time, I think Marvel gets a pass because since it's based on comic book properties, and most of us who had read comics when we were younger, we kind of already got used to the cycle of getting a new issue every month. So getting a new Marvel movie every 3 to 4 months isn't that big of a deal. Also, they're not all the exact same character continuity. They jumble it up so you get a little bit of variety and breathing space in between. Like it's not Thor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's Thor, then Captain America, then Ant-Man, then Captain Marvel, then Thor, then Iron Man. So yeah, it gives you a little bit more of that staggering. Like even though yes, it's another issue of Marvel coming at you, it's a little different. So it keeps you varied. I'm noticing also that the way Disney's or Lucasfilm under Disney has been releasing their movies, the regular audience is not at all clear about the timeline for this stuff. I've seen people talking as if Solo is set before the original prequels. There's people confused about when Rogue One was set. I've heard people comment about thinking that Vader was dead. It's just they're relying an awful lot on the common average fan base to be hip to all the details, and that's just not the case. The people they hear from are, but those are the ardent fans. Other things that could be done by rebooting the whole Star Wars trilogy. Years ago, my problem with the prequels wasn't so much the ideas within them. I don't mind the idea that it was this kind of really more about Palpatine and all his slow background manipulations and all the stuff that the Jedi were doing were just distractions. But that wasn't sold to the audience very well. And I think narratively it could have been structured better. I think part of the problem is that George Lucas wanted to make kid movies, and those prequels were supposed to be this really dark magnum opus that he just couldn't face making. And so he never made. And he kept putting off all the dark stuff to the very end, which makes Anakin's fall just seem abrupt and kind of unrealistic and all that other kind of stuff. And cast people with better chemistry than Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman had. I always personally felt that because of some like dialogue of like, you served my father in the Clone Wars, I felt that Alderaan and Bail Organa were going to have larger parts. In my own head, before the prequels ever came out, I was expecting there was going to be some sort of love triangle between Leia's adopted father and her mom and Anakin, but that's not where they went with that. Also, I don't think that they should have killed off Padme. Because the dialogue of Luke and Leia talking about, like, tell me about your mother. Oh, well, she was sad. Well, who cares? Because that wasn't Luke's mother anyway, so your memories of her don't mean anything. Old stuff. I would start the movies off with the Clone Wars already there, and Anakin being older, not a little 9-year-old kid in pod racer. Like the Jedi are like struggling to like maintain their numbers. There's this heavy attrition rate. Obi-Wan comes across this pilot who's just like a freelance pilot or a mercenary or is just in the Navy. It recognizes in him that he's got force potential, and against instructions from Yoda and others, he decides he's going to try to train this cat, and that's how Anakin becomes a Jedi. More in line with how it was told to Luke, because that sounded like a better story than what we ended up getting in the prequels. I would end, like, the second episode should be where you have your climactic battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And the end of that movie, the big cliffhanger should be, Anakin being thrown into the lava pit and Obi-Wan taking off. And then the third movie should be all Obi-Wan on the run with Padme trying to stay down low until she's able to give birth. and keep the children hidden. While on the other end of the spectrum, it's the rise of Darth Vader. Maybe like at first Obi-Wan doesn't even know that Darth Vader is Anakin, because suddenly there's just this masked demon samurai guy going around killing the last of the Jedi, and actually follow through of Anakin hunting down and killing the Jedi, not him massacring a bunch of kids, because that's easy. And like, yes, it's evil, but it's like not prime evil. I'm not prime evil. Sorry about that. It's not as cherry as it could be. It's not as impressive. He's not fighting adults and decimating people who are trained. He's going in there and just mopping them down a bunch of little younglings. And so I always kind of thought that was a kind of a cop-out way to, like, we got to show that he's a bad guy now, and we got to have him do something intensely bad. I'd spend a whole movie of just him hunting down and make it kind of almost like this horror thing, and build up towards Obi-Wan realizing that Vader was his student Anakin that he had to fight with and all that kind of stuff. And maybe get more into an idea of Anakin having a split personality, because the whole idea of that, Vader killed your father kind of a thing, like him becoming Vader would be more obvious, like this different persona taking over him. Anyway, I'm just not sure if continuing to try to salvage with what they're doing is going to be wise and tenable. The fan base is fractured. It doesn't look like it's going to be reconciled between the two groups anymore. One side is fervently up in arms about having their property manipulated, and like, I don't think anything's really going to necessarily satisfy them. And the other side has all too easily accepted the media explanation that these are just a bunch of racist trolls. They're not. Racist trolls exists, but racist trolls are kind of an unrelated thing. Racist trolls will go to whatever is popular, getting them some attention. Star Wars is in the news right now, so having a bunch of just random nobodies pop up and throw in-words at people online on the Twitter, like, does that really have anything to do with those of us who are trying to talk about story structure issues and things about, like, I liked The Last Jedi. It's from my point of view, the only good of the Disney era Star Wars movies. I thought The Force Awakens was at best a proof of concept movie. Rogue One, I enjoyed the first time viewing, but since then I find it lacking. And yeah, like The Last Jedi, I came out of that theater, I felt like, for the first time in my adult life, I just watched a Star Wars movie where I don't have to have fucking Stockholm syndrome to convince myself that I just liked what I just liked. I get out of the theater, get on the bus, come home, turn on the internet, and oh my God, the world's on fire. Apparently, of course, I finally really enjoy a nice adult feeling Star Wars movie. And of course, everyone has to hate it. But over time, I made a point of listening to the haters, and I'm not like in 100% agreement, but I'm much more on their side than with the apologists. I don't think that the pro Star Wars group should be called shills, because they're not really shills, but they are apologists for a lot of this kind of stuff. And I'm kind of to a point, I don't really trust people whose opinions are too blandly like, oh yeah, it's okay. I mean, what is the definition of an okay movie? I mean, yes, all the movie has to do at its core to be good is it has to fill a couple hours of time. It has to have visual things going on for your eyeballs to look at, and there needs to be sounds and some sensation of something's going on, maybe something exciting to look at, someone pretty to look at, some, like special effects and explosions. But that's just basic ingredients. Like, saying something's good, like, I don't know. For years, I myself have been in that camp of people, and I know a lot of people who do this too, of like, oh, Star Wars is just a kids movie anyway. We know that's not true. Yes, kids like it. And yes, it sells a lot of merchandise to kids, but it also sells a lot of merchandise to adults, and adults like it. It's a movie for everyone. And dismissing it as like, oh, it's a kids movie is giving them a pass, when like this is supposed to be like the preeminent franchise of all. We shouldn't just be getting mediocre, it was all right Star Wars. We should be getting, like, every Star Wars movie should be the most awesome thing ever. I mean, even the prequels weren't all that great. It's not like I'm just like giving George Lucas a pass on everything he did. But they didn't seem to break the fandom in this way. Like everyone kind of agreed that they were crap, but like everyone's just schizophrenic on these Disney movies. Like there's people who love Rogue One, people who hate Rogue One, people who love Force Awakens, people who hate Force Awakens, people who like Last Jedi, people who hate Last Jedi. Not enough people have seen Solo yet for me to really have that opinion on it. A lot of the people said they didn't like it, went in expecting not to like it, so I'm not exactly sure if I can trust their opinion, and then not really sure if I can trust the opinion of the people who say they like it because they're determined to like it because they don't want to seem like they're fucking horrible sexists. So like I said, I don't know how we're going to get forward with Star Wars and have it be satisfying unless they just completely hard reboot the whole thing from scratch. Anyway, talk to you later.